Here's a ridiculously beautiful song from Paul McCartney. It's not the easiest song in the world, but it's perfectly playable on a single guitar. There are something like around dozen different chord shapes. The challenge isn't the shapes, it's really in getting them to flow in a cohesive fashion with a finger-picking pattern that does justice to it, provides us enough rhythmic impetus and creates the kind of flow that we want. So let's look at that straight away. Now on the piano, McCartney does something like this. This kind of thing, and of course you'll hear this sort of thing a lot in Beatles songs of a certain type, and it's a great way to carve out the chords on the guitar without being too obtrusive. If we translate that to the guitar, I suggest something a bit like this. I'm going to have my picking fingers on the second, third and fourth strings, not the top string because I don't want it to be quite that bright most of the time. If we have the choice, we're going to go for a slightly mellower option, so the picking fingers on second, third and fourth, and then my thumb's going to be on the sixth or fifth string. Of course, if we're playing a D chord and that does come up, then we are forced to move the fingers all the way up to the top three strings. But for now, on a G chord for instance, that sort of thing, I've got my thumb on the bottom string, my first finger is picking the fourth string, followed up by the second and third fingers picking the third and second strings, and then back to the first finger on the fourth string. And apart from the very first two bars, the long and winding road, where I do want to emulate pretty much what the piano is doing on the original, I'm going to be doing this elsewhere as much as I can throughout the verse and the chorus, which is the only other section. So let's look at the chords now. Now the verse is, being a McCartney song, a slightly unusual number of bars. It's 12 bars in all. And we begin, as I say, with the opening two bars that have their own kind of rhythmic approach. B minor 7. And I'm just going to play all four of the middle four strings there. And hold that chord. And then, of course, again, the middle four strings. I've probably marked out the chord shape like that with a note on the third fret of the top string, but since I'm not picking that string, okay, that's the first two bars, and that happens several times in the song. The long and winding road that leads. Now we get to D for half a bar and D7 for half a bar to G. Winding road that leads to your door. There's a bar and a half of G before F sharp minor and we go on. But before we do, let's double back and look how we can get from the D to the G with a slightly smoother transition. We might try this. Now instead of going to a straight D7 here, I'm going to hold my D chord and move a finger to the third fret of the fifth string. I'm also moving my picking fingers down a string now, and I'm playing D over C. And the reason I'm doing that is because for the G chord I can play a B in the bass, which is one fret lower. So I get this. That leads to your door. That kind of thing. A much smoother way, and eventually we'll end up playing that bottom note for the G. I'm also going to put a finger on the third fret of the second string for that G chord, so G over B like this. It's quite a common thing to do. Gives it a bit of brightness, but more importantly it keeps that D that was on the third fret of the second string for the D and D7s. That leads to your door. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. Follow that with 2 beats of G, and F sharp minor for 2 beats, and it's B minor. E minor 7 for 2, A7 for 2, and we get to C over D. We'll come come back and look at C over D in a second, but first at E minor 7. He's got some kind of slidey things. He must have overdubbed the bass afterwards. He's got some kind of slidey bass things going on that are really lovely. I can't do very much of that on the guitar because I've got plenty of other things to think about, but maybe just on the E minor 7 because we got the luxury of moving onto that bottom string. Never disappear. Maybe that's enough, just walking down 3, 2, 0 onto the E minor 7. And again, C over D means we have to go up to the top 4 strings, but you can get exactly the same voicing and a slightly mellower sound powering across the middle 4 strings at the 5th fret. That's going to give you C over D. And if you saw my Commodore's Easy Like Sunday Morning video that I did recently, that G over A and that A flat over B flat is exactly the same shape. 4 over 5 if you like. And then we finish the verse with no more new chords. It always leads me here. Lead me to your door. The wild and windy night. Let the rain. And that leads us obviously into the second verse, which is exactly the same as the first verse. That C over D chord there, it comes at a point in the verse where there's a bit of a pause in the vocals and everything kind of builds around it, the strings and the bass and the drums and so on. I've seen that road before. And you might want to put in some little fill there. I just did a little pentatonic thing, just because it's in an ideal position to start that sort of thing off. To play G pentatonic there, maybe 5th and 7th frets on the 5th string, 5th and 7th frets on the 4th string, sliding up to the 9th fret, and then 7th and 9th on the 3rd string up to the 8th fret on the 2nd string. There are other places you could do it, more obvious places than that, but that's the sort of thing that I might try and do. I've seen that road before. I might have overdone it there a bit, but you know, experiment and see what sort of things happen to fall under your fingers. Okay, that's the whole of the verse. Let's get into the chorus, which is a piece of cake. It's very short and it's a small sequence of chords that just repeat. We start with a D. Many times to G, I've been alone. And again D. But what's happening is for the D chord, I've got the 5th string, the open 5th string for D over A. Many times, that's going to go down to the G, the bottom note of the G chord. Many times I've been alone. The next time we come back to D, I've got an F sharp in the bass. You could wrap your thumb round for that, or maybe just finger it like that, and it's 2 beats each. Many times I've been alone, and many times I've cried. And it's E minor 7 to A7, 1 beat each, so you haven't really got time to play the whole pattern. You might try this on the E minor 7. I'm picking the bass note, 2nd and 3rd strings together, and then coming down to the 4th string with my 1st finger. And then again for the A7, the thumb's going to move up to the 5th string, but otherwise that kind of thing is going to be identical. Many times I've been alone and many times I've cried. And again, anyway, you never know the many ways I've tried, but still and we're into verse 3. So we've had verse 1, verse 2, chorus, verse 3, and now we have another chorus, but this time it's instrumental. It's the na-da-dee-da-da, which ends up with the strings and the singing kind of ethereal angel-like stuff going on. That's exactly the same as the chorus, except this time it's not sung. So that's that, and then we get into verse 4. Exactly the same as the previous verses, except of course now we have the ending. But still they lead me back to the long winding road Now that would be the end of the verse. Lead me to your door. But on the original, what happens is this. Lead me to your door. As you reach that D chord, the orchestra pipes up with the vocal melody just there. So you could maybe pick that out on the guitar. Leads me to your door. Okay. And it's like this. 3rd fret on the 2nd string, 2nd fret, down to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, down to the 4th fret of the 4th string, and we end up on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Now, if you can aim to hit that note on the 4th fret of the 3rd string with your 2nd finger, then the G over A will form very nicely around it. So you're going to have lead me to your door, which is the end of the song, and he does a yeah, yeah, yeah kind of thing. Lead me to your door. And that's all there is. Okay, let's have a playthrough. 1, 2, 3. The